I do think that at least a significant number of things that people think are aliens are demons. I'm gonna say that, and I believe that for a few reasons. Number one, there is way more evidence for the existence of God than the existence of aliens. Way more. Bro, it's really interesting. Ephesians 2 describes Satan, listen to this language, as the prince of the powers of the air. So people are like, oh man, we're seeing all these unexplained phenomenon in the air and da-da-da-da. Okay. The Bible says that, hey, what is Satan? He's the god of this world, and he's the prince of the powers of the air. Another one, if you go down the rabbit hole, and I do not recommend that for a reason I'm going to say in a second.
I agree with you.
There are a weird number of alien abduction, quote unquote, testimonies that they report that when they invoke the name of Jesus, that the encounter ceases. If you want to go listen, there's a podcast called Haunted Cosmos that has an episode called Evangelistic Aliens, where they trace, okay, all these people who claim to have had encounters with aliens, UFOs, what were the messages they were giving you? They're overtly religious messages that are like anti-Christ, anti-Christian messages. So then you start going like, well, what do demons do? They are agents of lies, intentionally, commissioned to lead people away from Jesus. Well, what does it seem like the quote unquote aliens do? That. Here's the last one that I'll say, dude. I have a person that I love very dearly and I'm very close to. Well, then this guy goes through a season of very, very severe depression. And I was very close to this guy. So then eventually he stumbles into a thoroughly Christian counselor. And this Christian counselor has him go through a checklist for essentially spiritual warfare. And one of the things on this guy's checklist was, it was like, hey, are you into the occult? Are you into this? Are you into that? No. And then one of the things on the checklist was, do you have a fascination, or like, are you studying UFOs, aliens? And he was like, well, what's that got to do with anything? Yeah, I am. This guy explains to him that he believes there's a connection between these things. His Christian counselor disciples him. Hey man, I want you to fast for a season from having anything to do with that fascination or obsession. And this guy does that, devotes himself to a season of prayer. His depression is completely released. The two things that are the most important are, number one, understanding that my problems are more spiritual than I think they are. If this world is lorded over by a father of lies, and there is the reality of unholy spirits, how much more do we need to be filled with the power of the Holy Spirit? Greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world.
The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
I've been talking to a lot of people over the last few months that think that aliens are angels and devils. And that's like when you're hearing about like all those stories in the Bible about fallen angels and devils, like these people think that they were referring to aliens.
That fell from the sky?
No, it's just the term, the way they're phrasing it is like fallen angel, meaning like Satan, and that there's good angels and bad angels, there's demons and angels. They believe that all these stories are really referencing a spiritual force that's always here all the time, and sometimes exists in the physical form, is some sort of interdimensional spiritual being. These stories from like the ancient Hindu texts that have people either interacting with sky people or someone coming from the sky.
There's something I need you to see. It's not just what's there, it's what's missing.
Okay, tinfoil hat take on Christians and aliens incoming. Don't write me off here. Okay, so government officials testified this week about documented UFO sightings in the sky, but also in the ocean underwater. So here's the question, Pastor Josh, do you believe in the possibility of aliens? Well, here's what I for sure believe in. The possibility of demons posing as aliens. All right, two creepy facts from the Bible on this. So they testified to UAPs, that's unidentified anomalous phenomenon, in two places. Number one in the sky, number two in the ocean. Well, number one, Ephesians 2:2 calls Satan and demons, quote, the prince of the powers of the air. You say, yeah, Josh, but what about him being in the ocean? Well, when Jesus cast demons into pigs in Matthew 8, they immediately ran underwater into the Sea of Galilee. But also, when Revelation 13 describes Satan and demonic forces rising at the end of time, guess where it says they rise from?
Read that. But anyway, okay. All right. All I can say is ignorant. Because
thank you, because I'm losing my shit.
It's such ignorance. Okay, first of all, it's just ridiculous. Okay, first of all, let me make the point that this whole thing with Jesus saying Jesus when you're having an alien abduction, that it stops, is complete and utter horseshit. Okay, I have been abducted myself. I know lots of people who have. I was in MUFON, and that is not the case. I used to have like 30 rosaries around my bed during this period of time and pray constantly. It did literally nothing. And I don't know, the people who claim that, I have a feeling are either people who maybe they are having some kind of thing they think is an alien abduction and it is some kind of demonic attack, or maybe they're Christian, or maybe they made it up. But that is absolutely 100% inaccurate.
Fortunately for y'all's sake, I was really busy the last few days, so I didn't get all these Christian videos ready.
I would have, my brain would
so you can watch where some of this is coming from is this book. We're just kind of updating a little bit. It's the Final Events. The three of us, Denise, Helen, and I, discussed this book in the past, and it seems kind of relevant now because let's see, while this is triggering Assemblies of God, oh Lord,
what seems more realistic? What do you think seems more realistic, that the people 2,000 years ago who lived in the desert and wandered about mistook potential alien things as demonic, or the fact that there are literally endless hundreds of billion, there are more stars in like our universe than there are grains of sand, by infinite amounts, and around all of those stars are planets, and that there's multiple dimensions, which we know from science, that there's something interacting with us that isn't just human, or that there's definitely demons trying to attack us and get us away from Jesus. And I want to make the point here, too, that there was recently discovered the Ethiopian, that canon. And in that canon...
That's next week's show, actually.
Okay, well, it's
you inspired me, as always.
Oh, thanks. It is related to this, because Jesus told his closest apostles before he was... crucified, basically the kingdom of heaven is within, and that the work is to enlighten yourself, to find the source within, and that's where heaven comes from. And his sacrifice was to show how you needed to sacrifice the flesh in order to become immortal. And that was what the meaning of the crucifixion was, because he knew he was going to pass. Okay, I'm shocked to understand age people believe this kind of crap about aliens being demons. It is absurd, but yet very common among a certain faction of really extreme literalist, right-wingy type Christians. Because if it isn't in that canon that was the Romans decided to correlate, it seems like religious psychosis. Yes, and people wanting to get raptured. I agree. What we're going to get into in the premise of this book, and the reason, as absurd as this stuff is, this book meaning Final Events, is that these people are in our government and they're in our military and they believe this crap. And the evidence of that is this war right now, where there is a substantial segment of these people that are claiming that this is a holy war. Yes.
And, one of the things, because I couldn't remember the cult I grew up in, what they believed about this kind of stuff. And anyway, since they were kind of disbanded, there were all kinds of little offshoots. And where it started, the cult I grew up in was called the Worldwide Church of God with Herbert W. Armstrong. And he had a very handsome son named Garner Ted, who was really, really good on the radio, very smooth voice. And that's where they got a lot of people. It was because of Garner Ted. But anyway, Dad and the son had some kind of falling out, so they split. And then when the state of California sued the main church, and there was all this stuff going on, the church eventually was disbanded when Herbert died. But there's like all these little like offshoots of it.
Or Herbert?
Herbert.
She
Herbert
did.
W.
Herbert. Okay.
Didn't miss a beat.
That's what we called. Well, Herbert. We would make fun of him all the time
call
too.
him Herbert.
We call him Hubie and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, one of these offshoots is called the Church of God International, and that's one of the sons like things. And so they have there was like a whole thing on Pathos where they were talking about these crazy religious beliefs, this like, guy with a master's in divinity. And he pointed out this one because theirs was the most absurd, where they were saying, yeah, these are really demons. And our military is tasked with going after these and killing them. And they said, but the problem is that when Jesus comes back, he's going to look like a UFO too. And so that will fulfill the prophecy when the military comes and they fight against the return of Jesus. Because they're going to think it's a UFO and start shooting at Jesus.
Wow. Okay.
That is so crazy.
But
in a way, it's kind of logical, because if the military is tasked with killing off the UFOs, if Jesus comes as one, why not
the military
kill that one too?
They can't kill off the UFOs. I mean, they
but in their mind,
I know.
weird
Helen's
logic.
skeptical face does need an emoji.
That's
Disgust.
I am disgusted.
Yeah.
Come
Oh
at
my
us
God.
with- you might as well pull out Grimm's fairy tales and Aesop's
Yes.
fables and quote them.
Yeah. Right. As
The
literal fact.
Bible, the Torah, the Old Testament, the New Testament, all of these scriptures globally are allegorical. This is nonsense. Now, I'm not
It is.
saying that UFOs aren't connected in some way to spirituality, because energy
Right.
is energy.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But to start quoting Jesus, you say Philippians to me, and my hair on the back of my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mine too.
agree. Yeah, I just there's so much misinformation about all of this. And like I think I wrote a piece about this on Substack about people's belief shaping the problem, the quagmire we're in. It's like, it's not that it has to happen. It's sort of that whole thing, which is why I'm always really careful when I do readings for people, not to put something in there that, if you want peaceful transfer of power, all they need is some
Well, there have been some. We did a show about that.
Yeah, that did happen, Darcy. That happened actually starting in 2012, and there were sky trumpets going on from 2012 to about 2016, for about 4 years, something like
You've
maybe
got
20.
these big shots in the Pentagon are telling their underlings to go to the troops and tell them this is a righteous war because we are fulfilling biblical prophecy. That's a quote.
Yes.
Hexeth with the big Crusader cross and Deus Vult on his arm. He brought in Doug Wilson, who wants women at home. He wants to repeal the 19th Amendment. Tell me where in the beliefs of love and compassion espoused by Jesus, marginalizing women
and minorities and people of anybody.
yeah.
I mean, everybody. But
researching for these videos, we've got a couple that kind of give the history of how this got into the government based on the book that Denise had us read. But when I'm trying to find public domain clips, I watched so many weird sermons last night. It was just like, oh my God. And so one of them was this like really fundy kind of church. I don't remember what it was. And they were talking about how the Old Testament authorizes like these vast destructions, not leaving anyone alive, like in the Middle East. And it really does. And they were basically saying that this needs to be, and so fortunately I was so tired I didn't have nightmares about it, but it's nightmare kind of stuff.
Right.
And people, they really believe that, and they feel like they're being just and righteous by believing that.
Yeah, that's all the holy wars are like that. And that's what makes the whole thing so evil. Truly.
Exactly. It's so disturbing. And
well, just to give you a little taste, the Palestinians.
Yeah.
And I remember them. Guess who they are in the Bible? The enormously reviled Philistines. My grandmother used to call us Philistines when she was mad at us. You're nothing but a bunch of Philistines. But they're a reviled subgroup in the Bible. And look how they're being treated now by any other name, right?
Right.
And then the thing that's even more absurd about all of this is that in the Christian thing, eventually all the Jews will get killed off. So but the Jews believe, well, we've got to expand Israel to this, like Huckabee was promoting this idea that it's, the Israeli state needs to be expanded to this. And the whole thing is just so, this is why I was a real hardcore atheist for a while, real hardcore, because of seeing, and seeing the damage that religion creates by, it indoctrinating people. And the thing is, I was having this conversation with my mother. You can't really judge, a lot of these people because they've been indoctrinated, unless you have that thing within you that tells you, wake up. They really think they're right. It's just so disturbing to
fear. Me. It's not so much they think they're right as they're afraid they don't want to be wrong.
That's true. Yeah. It's a verse in Matthew.
Exactly. So that is so right. I was going to make that point, Darcy. She says there's a verse in Matthew and other places that says no one will know the day or hour that Jesus will return. But they think they can trick him by hurrying prophecy along on loopholes. That's exactly right. And that's basically what this dominionist theology, Seven Mountains, is. They want to take control of everything to create, to enable the kingdom to happen. But it's just well.
But the other thing I want to say about all this is that Christian doctrine is not, it's not really what it has become or what became of Christianity after it was turned into an organized religion isn't really and doesn't have really much to do with what Jesus taught or who Jesus was and all the apocryphal texts really that have been thrown out of the Bible are really about spirituality and about finding truth within. Yet the Romans picked and chose the things that would really make people, become more complicit, more compliant, use fear and intimidation. And, they were an empire that wanted to unite their empire through this one religious organization and use it to go and take over the world. So it's really a control system. The Bible as we know it is not really the words or actions or deeds of Jesus. It's really the Romans who decided to put these texts together and manipulate people into a control system of fear to get compliance. And if you actually read any of the apocryphal texts, like the Gnostic Bible or the new thing that was just unearthed, which is the Ethiopian, had all these extra texts that were much more Jesus and the Lost Goddess, right?
Awesome book.
and all of the Gospels of Mary Magdalene, and just all of the other actual things where people who were there with Jesus said are completely in opposition to the ideas we have of Jesus now. And it just goes to show you how control systems and literalist beliefs, how they can really cement in people's minds, and people will take that and try to make it happen. And that's what I was saying. It's really, you have to be careful what you tell people, I think, in terms of in areas like this where they feel like they don't know. They will, if enough people believe it, and they are literally believing that this is the way to salvation, they're trying to create this situation that they think and that belief is why we're in the quagmire we're in now in every area. Climate change, this idiotic war, getting idiot Trump in power. All of these things are because people are afraid and they believe this fear-based religious
exactly.
System.
We've got a few comments here. Crystal Blue grew up in the Church of Christ in Middle Tennessee. I think she said the 60s and 70s and a later thing. Yep. And we rarely read the Old Testament, and the preacher barely talked about the apocalypse. We just got be a good person and believe in Jesus Christ. And I think a lot of religions were like that until this the politics got involved. Exactly. Lizzie was agreeing with you, Denise. Darcy, she grew up in Southern Ohio. Bible quizzer in the 80s, 90s. Only the New Testament was eligible for quizzing.
What is that?
I don't know. It's some kind of, I don't know.
Bible trivia
thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Crystal adds, I didn't attend church again until 2000 in Northeast, and it was Baptist. Oh my God, cray rapture politics. I ended up deconverting. See, that's what has happened. It was when the politics got involved in this that it really started getting so nutty.
But even the idea that you have to believe in Jesus Christ as God is not actually anything that Jesus said, and it's actually not part of the Apocrypha either. It's not part of any of the other outside the sort of Roman version, which was Paul, who basically the church that everything else is built on is the church that Paul invented. And it is not, and has nothing to do with any of the teachings of Jesus. Jesus did not tell you you had to worship him to get into heaven. You had to find the kingdom of heaven within in order to enlighten yourself so you could make your way. Not that you should just get a Costco card with Jesus on it and stamp it, pay your dues and get into heaven. That's not how it's supposed to work. But and
weren't the Gospels written like 40 years after the fact or so? It was a couple decades after Jesus even died. It was 200. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, when you really get right down to it, it's based on Gnostic philosophy, and it was updated for the historical time and place and culture, but it's allegory. It's like Aesop's fables. Fables, you read them to a child, the child gets the message.
That's certainly the way the Catholics look at the Bible.
We did the Bible. I didn't hear
that's how the priests, when they taught it to me as allegory, not as literal facts. That was how it was, because I believe that some of this comes from the fact that people who are priests in the Roman Catholic Church, they have to study theology. They actually have masters and advanced degrees in theology. They aren't just some rando who picks up the Bible and reads it literally and doesn't understand it and just starts talking about the weirder, crazier aspects of the Bible that don't really make sense, and don't necessarily. There's so many things, if you read the Bible, that are actually in contradiction to one another.
But my point, though, Denise, about this is that it's not meant to be taken literally. Was there a guy that the Romans christened Jesus and fit into the story? Maybe, maybe not. And all of the weird things that Jesus said are Gnostic beliefs. It's all symbolism, letting go of ego and embracing gnosis.
Yeah, well, there is supposedly a lot of evidence to support the idea that there was somebody named Jesus who was a teacher. Who he was is very different, I think, than the interpretation or the telephone version you get in the Bible, where
it's irrelevant.
Yeah,
it has nothing.
Have you heard of the Clergy Project, Helen or Denise?
No, they didn't invite me.
Well, no, it's very interesting. Dan Dennett, the late philosopher, I interviewed him about that. And what it is so many of the more learned ones that Denise was talking about with the degrees, they know it's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, they do.
And they don't believe in the religion, but they stay in it because they don't know what other like career opportunities are available for them, and they view themselves more as counselors and to kind of suppress some of this crazy kind
That's
of
right.
stuff. But they're a
Yes.
national organization. We've got a few comments. Let me get to these. So this is what the quizzing is. You study a Bible during the school year and basically memorize the entire book, because you have to quote with just the book and verse reference, and trophies to gamified for the Lord. She is so funny. Or one book of the Bible, Acts, Corinthians, etc. Then Crystal Blue adds, they never told us as a kid that Jesus was God. They said he was God's son. I think the official Church of Christ position is that he's God, but nobody really thought of JC that way.
Well, okay. Well, that's another thing about the invention of the Trinity as part of a way to make the monotheistic religion of Judaism into turning him, which the Romans, I believe, really turned him into a god, because what Roman is going to believe in just some rando guy who's teaching stuff? I mean, they paganized him, turned him into a god, and then they invented the trifecta there, the Trinity,
yeah,
which
the
was
Trinity.
Yeah, which is basically goddess culture. Yeah.
And their arguments for and against the Trinity is just mind-numbing. So
it is
manufactured after the fact.
It is.
That cracks me up. I used to wonder, what about the poor people who died in a fire and there was nothing left? How did they rise, they miss out.
Well, the idea that people are going to come, I mean, why would you even want to be stuck in this plane of existence for all of eternity? That would be fucking hell in itself.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not about physical rejuvenation.
No, it's not. That's right. That's what I'm saying. Oh my God, if it was, it would be a terror story, in my opinion. I remember all my friends who would read those vampire books. I'm like, why would you want to live forever? Like, that's just not a nightmare.
Nightmare.
You know what I mean? I mean, dang. This place isn't that great. There's other places that are better. I'm on the spectrum.
Being on the spectrum helps you win for Jesus, I think.
Hey, I guess so.
I got nervous about the Holy Ghost because what the heck, ghosts are bad. Oh gosh. Well, I've got a couple videos here to kind of explain the premises, the premise of this book, the what is it called?
Okay,
the final event, just to kind of show people how this crazy crap made it into the government. Because I mean, and these weren't made by me, they're Creative Commons, but it kind of helps, kind of puts it in.
Is a shadowy alleged group within the U.S. government said to have investigated UFO phenomena for decades, concluding that these encounters are not extraterrestrial, but demonic in nature. This secretive cabal, blending Christian theology with conspiracy, has stirred debate among ufologists, researchers, and skeptics alike. Their story is rooted in Cold War paranoia and amplified by modern UFO disclosure movements, and it remains a fascinating, if unproven, thread in the tapestry of unexplained phenomena. The Collins elite reportedly emerged in the late 1940s or early 1950s, a period marked by heightened UFO activity following Kenneth Arnold's 1947 flying saucer sighting and the Roswell incident. Comprised of military officers, intelligence agents, scientists, and devout Christians, the group is said to have formed amid fears that UFOs represented a threat beyond earthly technology. According to Nick Redfern's 2010 book Final Events, their initial curiosity about alien visitation shifted as they interpreted sightings through a biblical lens, viewing them as manifestations of fallen angels or demonic entities deceiving humanity. This theory gained traction during the Cold War, when anxieties about Soviet espionage and nuclear annihilation fueled speculation about otherworldly forces. Their name, Collins Elite, remains a mystery. No official documentation confirms its origin. Some suggest it honors a founding member, while others tie it to Fortean researcher John Keel's influence, though Keel himself never mentioned such a group.
No.
At the heart of the Collins elite's ideology is the rejection of the extraterrestrial hypothesis. They argue that UFOs and their occupants, often described as gray aliens or other non-human entities, NHEs, are interdimensional beings with malevolent intent. Drawing from Scripture, they see these entities as part of a satanic deception, potentially paving the way for Armageddon. This aligns with their alleged view that alien abductions and cattle mutilations mirror historical accounts of demonic interference, a narrative they claim the government has suppressed to avoid mass panic.
So, yeah, all of it wasn't correct, but it was a fairly good,
it was okay. Yeah, I mean, the Collins elite came from the name of the guy who was plucked for that. So it was a bunch of guys in the Pentagon who were extreme right-wing Christians who were freaked out by the phenomenon. They blamed everything on what's the guy, the occultist who was also a rocket scientist.
Crowley. We're gonna play his next.
Jack Parsons, right? Jack Parsons. They thought he opened a portal, and that's how all these demonic entities came in, which is giving him a lot of fucking credit. Excuse my language, but come on. I mean, he did not
blew himself up by accident.
He blew his own self up. Yeah, so he couldn't be that good. And I know a lot of he lived in Pasadena, and I lived in that area for a long time. I knew it through the occult network of people, doing kind of other things and being involved in the mystical kind of Los Angeles. I knew people that knew him and said he was, he did not do that. Okay. I'm sure he was kind of a kook, but he did not have that kind of power.
He was pals with L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Dogs is what they were.
Yeah. And Aleister Crowley and whatever. And those people, it's really just sort of, in my mind, it kind of is very similar to a thing that you get, what humans happen to do a lot, which is sort of elevate people to godlike status, especially if they don't understand them or if they have a special talent or ability. Then all of a sudden they kind of get worshipped. And this is sort of that kind of like, I feel like it's sort of a weird backwards worshiping of Jack Parsons, because he was a brilliant scientist, and he was, that's totally ridiculous.
This next clip kind of this next clip kind of talks about all the players that you mentioned. It kind of puts it in perspective for everyone. This guy does a really good job. It's part of a much longer, he did a few years ago, like a hour and some video about this same book. And fortunately, it is public domain, but it tells you the players. And the thing that blows my mind about it is that our military takes this seriously. It's like,
I know that is
and trance states conducted with a partner named Roddy Minor, who served as a psychic medium. Crowley's stated goal was to make contact with non-physical intelligences, entities that existed beyond the material plane. He claimed to have succeeded. The entity he contacted, or believe he contacted, he named Lam, L-A-M. Some pronounce it Lam, but after a little research, I found that most people who know say Lam. Crowley drew a portrait of Lam. That drawing survives, and it's the detail in this story that tends to get the most attention. The portrait shows a being with an oversized, bulbous, hairless head, large, dark, slanted eyes that dominate the face, a very small mouth, and a thin, delicate frame. If you showed that drawing to someone today without any context and asked them what it depicted, most would identify it as a gray alien. The drawing was published in 1919. The modern gray alien archetype, the image most people associate with extraterrestrial beings, did not enter popular culture until decades later. The widely recognized gray alien image emerged in the 1960s and gained major traction after Whitley Strieber's 1987 book, Communion, put a version of the face on its cover. Crowley's portrait of Lam preceded all of that by more than 40 years. After Crowley's death in 1947, his former secretary, Kenneth Grant, took a deep interest in Lam. Grant founded the Typhonian Order an offshoot of Crowley's original Ordo Templi Orientis, and developed what he called the Lamb Statement, a formalized ritual for contacting the entity. Grant explicitly connected Lamb to the UFO phenomenon, suggesting that Crowley had made contact with the same type of being that would later be reported in abduction cases. People who performed the Lamb Statement ritual described the entity as possessing a cold, mechanical intelligence, an awareness that felt calculated and devoid of empathy. Crowley's most devoted follower picked up where the Amalantra working left off, and what followed would intersect with the history of both American rocketry and the modern UFO era. Jack Parsons was a genuine scientific prodigy. He co-founded the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at the California Institute of Technology and co-founded the Aerojet Engineering Corporation, which became a major defense contractor. His work on solid rocket fuel propulsion was foundational to the American space program. He was also a committed Thelemite, a practitioner of Crowley's religion, and a member of the Agape Lodge of the Ordo Templi Orientis in Pasadena, California. In January 1946, Parsons conducted a series of rituals in the Mojave Desert that he called the Babylon Working. His partner and scribe for these rituals was a man named L. Ron Hubbard, who would later go on to found the Church of Scientology. The Babylon Working involved ceremonial magic, sex magic, and invocations intended to do something Parsons described in grandiose terms, to invoke a goddess figure called Babylon to conceive a moonchild, and according to Parsons' own writings, to open a portal between dimensions that Crowley at first thinned during the Amalantra Working. The rituals ran from January through March of 1946. Upon their completion, Parsons claimed success. He reported meeting a woman named Marjorie Cameron shortly after the final ritual and believed she was the physical manifestation of Babylon, drawn to him by the working. Cameron herself later reported seeing a UFO during this period, which Parsons recorded in his notes. Parsons eventually performed what he called the Oath of the Antichrist, claimed to embody an entity named Valerian Armillus al-Dajjal, and wrote 2 manuscripts, the Book of Babylon and the Book of Antichrist, that went unpublished in his lifetime. He died in 1952 at the age of 37 in an explosion at his home laboratory in Pasadena. The official ruling was accidental, though the circumstances have been debated for decades. The timeline is worth laying out plainly. Crowley's Amalantra Working and his contact with Lamb, 1918. Parsons' Babylon Working, designed to open the dimensional doorway wider, January through March 1946. Kenneth Arnold's famous sighting of 9 disc-shaped objects near Mount Rainier, Washington, the incident that coined the term flying saucer and launched the modern UFO era, June 24, 1947. The Roswell Incident, July 1947. The massive wave of UFO sightings that followed, late 1947 onward. Kenneth Grant, Crowley's successor, noted this timeline and drew a direct connection. He suggested that the Babylon Working marked the beginning of the flying saucer phenomenon, that Parsons and Hubbard had succeeded in opening something, and what came through was what the world would eventually call UFOs. Occultists from the early 20th century onward did not describe these entities as extraterrestrial. They described them as interdimensional, beings from another plane of existence that can be contacted through ritual, not technology. The beings that Crowley contacted through ceremonial magic in a Greenwich Village apartment looked identical to the beings that millions of people would later attribute to spacecraft from distant stars. The entities responded to ritual. They came through what practitioners described as open doorways, and their appearance matched descriptions that would not become mainstream for another half-century.
You know, okay, first of all, that woman Jack Parsons thought was drawn to him from the ritual left him shortly thereafter for L. Ron Hubbard. So that was not very successful. And the second thing I want to say is the UFO phenomenon has been with us since the beginning of time, but very specifically in the 20th century, the Foo Fighters of World War I were widely reported all throughout that period, which happened in the turn of the century, like in 1907, whatever. Was that when the war started, 1914 or something like that? So long before, years before, you know, all that mishigas that they're talking about, all these grown men playing fantasy role games, in my opinion. I mean, I'm just going to say this, okay? I knew people who were involved in the OTO. I knew a guy who started his own lodge and everything. I went to some of their things. It's very weak magic, okay? I'm just going to tell you that. It's very weak. It's very ritualized. It's very bullshit. It's nothing. Okay, there's no way that they could have opened a portal. I know from experience that they just did not have the kind of ability or capability to do something like that. And it's just
that gets me. It's all so absurd and so stupid.
It's so stupid.
And this boys club kind of stuff. It's just so ridiculous, and yet it's in our government. That's what gets me. It's like so stupid. Well, I love what Crystal Blue said. Maybe he grabs the alien by the arm and asked, "Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior?"
I know that's pretty funny with crazy eyes.
Probably gave him a copy of the Book of Mormon.
I mean, if you met some of these people that they're referencing and the people associated with it, they're just a bunch of nerdy guys that would be playing Dungeons and Dragons. That is literally what the deal is. It's just a lot of show and put on, trying to pretend like they're powerful and that they're scary, just like goths did in the 80s, or people, who dress up and look kind of like try to look like vampires. It's no different than that.
Or every Sunday in the Catholic Church when the priest wanders down the aisle with a bunch of gold cups and then has
Exactly. It's just ridiculous.
Maybe
give them way too much power.
Well, my whole thing about these secret societies as a whole, I'm very cynical about it. I don't know how important they are. Okay, the Epstein thing, but that wasn't like a society, was it? Like,
can I address this?
Magic.
Uranus didn't go back. It's an 84-year cycle. So Uranus went into Gemini right after we entered World War II. So it was a little bit later. So anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
So Darcy says, "Hey, now don't be coming for the goth."
I love the goth kids. I was, in D&D, but it's play. It's fun. That's what they were doing. Like this guy I knew said that Aleister Crowley was the naughtiest man in the world. He wasn't the most evil. I mean, he was a horn dog. He was full of shit. He was just about having sex and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, before his time. I mean, that's what he was really about. And
Deborah, you were asking about the secret societies. Insane. They kind of have like a hierarchy. You go to college. If you go to Yale, you have to be rich and accepted. And if you're a boy, you get 15 people a year get picked to be in Skull and Bones, and it's a secret society.
Yep.
And they're running around naked and hazing each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's
the same thing. It's the same thing.
But yet there's all these conspiracy theories around it, because it's a secret society. It's got all these
and that's why it's secret, and that it's all about that. It's all about, and even the Masons. I'm going to tell you, I know people are Masons. There's nothing to it, really. I mean, no offense, but there isn't.
And Barron's, what's her name?
Exactly.
The Supreme Court Justice, the woman Barron, I can never remember her last name.
Amy Coney Barrett.
I called her Amy COVID Barrett for
I do too. I was trying to remember what her name was.
She belongs to people of praise. And they do things like self-flagellate. They beat themselves with little spikes and wear hair shirts and
I know. People are nuts. I mean, that's the only thing you can take away from all this is that we are one insane bunch of monkeys. That's all I can say.
Oh, yeah.
Joy, in kindergarten, I thought Pontius Pilate was an astronaut like John Glenn.
I was still to my mom in church. Jesus was sending. Imagine Jesus go to the spaceship. That's funny. Oh, man.
That's hilarious.
We've heard people like the red MAGA hats to the mark of the beast as described in the Bible. It seemed fitting, and he causeth all to receive a mark in the right hand or in their foreheads. Like in the red MAGA hat, the mark of the beast, huh?
It's an Elon Musk chip.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
But the whole thing, I mean, if any of us could form one of these secret societies and get somebody crazy enough to give us a bunch of money and create a whole big mystique around it. And
it's what it's all
that's
about.
how I look at this stuff.
What it's all about.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. But why our government funds this kind of crap? You know, that was in this
because
book, you know,
people,
about some of the dark money in there.
You know what? Because people are crazy and dumb. I mean, I'm just going to be straight with you. People are dumb and crazy.
The Speaker of the House lives in an all-male, kind of like a fraternity house. It used to belong to Frederick Douglass in Washington, D.C. He lives in there with Andy Ogles, Denise's friend from Tennessee.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And
I really don't like him.
And Steve Berger, who is their pastor, who meets regularly at this house with members of Congress to tell them how to vote. And he admits it. I mean, this is, I didn't make
all of this stuff we're talking about has one thing in common. It's all in people's heads. It's not real. None of it's real. I mean, it's all imaginary. And you strip everything away from people and they have to live actually like an actual, like we used to live thousands of years ago.
Accountable to themselves,
this is just ridiculous. I mean, all these fairy tales about, they're just all fairy tales. And even including all of these secret society things. I mean, I know that there are, like, take the Epstein stuff, right? He was cultivating that same thing. He had some weird thing on his island that was sort of like a temple and like a sacrificial altar. But do you really think the guy was doing anything that was anything other than just using that kind of, masquerade to sort of justify or rationalize or tie people together in these disgusting, heinous acts?
It was an excuse for perversion.
Exactly. It was an excuse for perversion. And a lot of these things are that. And a lot of whatever secret societies, I think the one where they flail themselves at some kind of self-immolation thing, some kind of, that's a perversion. They're obviously have, they're masochistic.
Paraphilia. It's getting sexual pleasure from something other than mainstream, like people who have a shoe fetish.
Right.
Or,
Yeah, it is. It's something like that. It's not, has nothing to do with anything. It's just, it just makes me sad because all of these things seem to come from unaddressed trauma, people's imaginations and we built that's why I think this is all kind of crashing though, because we built thousands of years of all of this imaginary, fake, crazy stuff and systems that are falling apart and just one thing after the next. And it's all crashing down on us right now.
The Da Vinci Code,
Da Vinci Code.
I react to this with an extreme level of anger. I know that, but it's a trauma reaction to patriarchy. Those people raised me.
Yeah,
and it took a certain amount of that kind of effort to get out of it. And so when you start talking about it, I immediately go into self-defense mode. I think a lot of people are still under that thumb. It shows you how strong the control is.
It is very strong.
Speaking of the Da Vinci Code, let me throw this in before I forget. We're going to have a pre-record with somebody that I've known for many, many years, who is an Emmy Award. He's done the History Channel version of the Da Vinci Code. So anyway, that will be coming up. Tom Quinn.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that.
And he's quite the guy, and he puts the whole Old Testament, he makes it hilarious, but it's very well researched, so you can like digest thousands of years of history and laugh all the way. So that will be pre-recorded because he's on the East Coast, so he can't do the live show. But watch for that, you guys. It's pretty good.
There's a guy called
forgot about that. Yep.
Something or other, I can't remember his last, Jacobs maybe, who wrote a book called The Year of Living Biblically.
Oh, yeah.
I decided to do an experiment and just obey all of the ancient Mosaic laws. And somebody said to him, well, you haven't obeyed them all because you didn't stone anybody. You didn't stone any adulterers. He said, well, actually, I did. I was talking to an acquaintance of mine, and I knew that he'd been playing around. So I just picked up a little gravel and kind of tossed it at his feet. He didn't even notice, but I was stoning him, you know.
Well, I was going to say though, you were saying that you went through atheism as a result of all this, and I think that's the natural thing that most people do is they reject all of it because it's such a bunch of crap, right? I mean, it really is, and I totally get why people go to that extreme because but I always feel like with people who take on the atheism thing, and I understand it completely because it is just sort of throwing away all this insanity. But I feel like they're doing themselves a disservice because just because people use people's spirituality, we lost talent.
Back. Here she is.
Okay.
What did you do, Helen? We lost you for a second.
Where'd you go? To the ether? Did you go say hello to Ball or something like that on the other side?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah, you disappeared.
I'm backstage still, but
no, you're not. You're
not. You're here.
You're on the show.
You, girl.
I'm backstage according to
No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Live.
You're live, dude. You're totally live.
Mr. Blue did
on
too.
My screen, it says you're backstage and I'm to the side.
I don't know what your internet must be.
You know,
you're here
Blue
though.
did too. I think for a lot of us,
it's totally understandable.
Or atheist activists, we've also had like this weird, like supernatural or whatever you want to call. Oh no, she's gone again. She must be having some kind of experiences. You know, and we never like rejected the idea that there's a greater and force or whatever you want to call it. It's just this deity. It's a rejection of deities. Is where we are. You're back, Helen.
Yeah. Well, I get it because
and I have found that, and so a lot of them, there's quite a few out there, and we don't really judge people for what they believe, but it's just keep it out of our damn government, and don't try to force us into your religion.
Exactly. Well, I do think though that there is a case to be made for people who, I understand why you would just chuck the whole thing because all of it's attached to that, spirit under the spiritual banner. But there's really nothing, I don't think. I mean, you can find some kind of thread of spirituality in organized religions, but you really have to look hard and dig around and throw a lot of stuff away because really religion is antithetical to real spirituality, in my opinion. But they tied it together so they can control you with your own natural urge to have a sense of divine being or connection to everything else. And it's really evil, I think. Truly, because it does also push people to the brink. If you're a rational, intelligent person, your natural instinct is like, fuck all of that shit. It's all bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
What was interesting?
Might be blasphemy, Denise.
I was like the first.
That's
blasphemy.
Oh,
I was like the first person, at least on the Blog Talk radio circuit before you had all of this on YouTube. And I had a show called, it was called The God Discussion.
Right.
And I was the first one that publicly allowed atheists to have a voice. And it was called Coming Out Atheist. I had a show about that like 20 some years ago. And Richard Dawkins actually called me to thank me for that. But what was so fascinating about it, and I'm seeing a lot of this in our comments, where a lot of us went there because it was like the only sphere where you were actually heard was the atheist movement. But then they would be so hard on you if you've had experiences that don't fit rational material things.
That's right.
So there was a lot of us that have kind of floated around in that world. Mm-hmm. And but I tell you, when the first Coming Out Atheist show I did, what was truly remarkable, because it had a phone bank, which was so nice that people could call and you could, and I think I paid for like the top tier because we were number one on the spirituality thing on Blog Talk for years. And I think I had like 500 like slots of callers on this thing. They were all full of people that were so hurt by religion.
Yes.
And so they were all identifying as atheists. But I would say 90% of them were all coming from Salt Lake City, which was really interesting.
No surprise.
That is not
But so
surprising.
many of those people, and they were feeling so lost because it's like, oh man, if I quit the church, I lose my family.
You lose your whole family, yeah.
I lose my business. I lose everything. And so it was like this blog talk show was just so nice because you could call and be anonymous and not have to show your face. That's why I have a phone line here, for that same reason. And you know, it was a space where people could actually talk about what they were going through. And I wasn't like hateful on, you know, the hardcore atheist community. It's like, if you had any kind of UFO experience or any kind of ghost, I mean, they were just vicious and hateful and like, oh, you're so stupid, you're delusional. And the thing is, if you've had them, you have. And so there were a lot of us, I think, that were like in that area. And so then I did a thing like 5 years into that, raising money for the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, because I was so aware of this stuff moving into our military, which is really scary if you think about these fanatics with nuclear bombs and rifles. And, you know,
it's a death cult.
But, you know, the ones that came through and gave money, it wasn't so much the atheists. It was the, quote, New Agers who didn't quite fit into the New Age thing either. There's like this whole sphere of people that they don't exactly, they don't fit into the New Age. They don't exactly fit into atheism. They're not religious. And I think that's a significant portion of, you know, and so all it is just labels, you know, because people ask you, what do you believe? So it's like you have to come up with a label. But when it really comes down to it, I don't know what the hell I believe, because I don't know. I can only go by what's right.
I personally think the best way to label yourself when you're in that space, you know, if you want to, I think is just to say you're a mystic and you don't know, you're living the not knowing, the mystery of things. You know,
I call myself a free thinker. I just went with free thinker.
Because here's the problem with atheism. Because I went to school, CalArts, which was run by a Marxist feminist. And if you know about Marxism, which I'm sure you do, they're extremely anti-religion and also anti-spirituality. It's all just hogwash bullshit. And I was also in a coven during that. Yeah, right. Very materialistic and nihilistic. And I was in a coven. Okay. I was having psychic experiences and UFO stuff.
Right up there.
I mean, I was interested in like theology and, you know, archaeology and all these recent findings of goddess cultures that were being kind of brought up, you know, kind of mined upwards, like Maya Gumbatis, all of her findings in her book, and the Barbara Walters information. Her name was Barbara Walters, wasn't it? Not Walters, Water. Can't remember her name. Walker. Barbara Walker.
I know. Yeah.
Barbara Walker. Her book and Starhawk and all these different sort of radical feminists who were re-examining a lot of old information through a different lens, right? So I was very much I was very much on the outside of that. Marginalized. But I totally understand that, you know, I get the reason and the rationale for it. However, it doesn't explain the unexplainable things that happen in life to be completely an atheist. I mean, not saying there's a God in the traditional sense. Like there's some kind of force or thing that's beyond us that we don't fully understand. I don't think you have to quantify it as such, like in terms of religious things, but you know, so I think the best thing to kind of see, the way I see myself is just like, I'm a mystic. I just think I try to just experience the subtle flow of energies, and I don't know exactly, and I change and I flow with whatever new information I get. Yeah. I don't stay dogmatic or believe in one thing. I don't practice any of the things I studied as a young person, you know, just to kind of delve into those different.
It's an evolution.
Yeah, it's an evolutionary experience.
Evolution.
It's like, you know,
can I answer this question here?
Yeah.
About Stephen?
Yeah.
So
we've got quite a few comments piling up. Let's do this one.
It's a long time since I've listened to him or read his stuff or, you know, watched his videos.
He's an asshole, I think.
Pardon me?
I think he's kind of an asshole. I think he's an arrogant.
For those listening, not watching, the comment is about Dr. Stephen Greer and his contact.
Yeah.
Okay, go
I
ahead,
think he's
Ellen.
very arrogant.
I was going to
Yeah.
be nicer than that, Denise. I was going
Well,
to
I know.
Nobody's
I know you
perfect.
would.
Everybody has
Yeah.
strengths and weaknesses. I think he's done a lot of good for the acceptance of self when you've encountered this kind of thing. But there's a lot of ego involved.
Oh, he's very
Yeah, a
egotistical.
lot of ego. And
Extremely.
when you start charging money to sit in the desert in the middle of the night, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think he's tries to position himself as this expert and as if he's the only person who knows everything about the phenomenon.
Yeah.
And he really sits outside of a lot of research groups and other people who study the phenomenon, and he's got a unique take on it. Some of it, like you said, some of the things are interesting, like meditation and contact with, but you don't need to go sit with Stephen Greer to contact UFOs.
No, he charges a lot of money to take people out there. And
Yeah.
it's everything he talks about is completely antithetical to the stuff that David Jacobs talks about.
Yeah,
I'd like
right.
to see them debate this in a room.
Yeah, no, this is a problem. People in the UFO community do not like Dr. Stephen Greer at all. I can tell you that much. Like
Oh,
the
is that
MUFON
true?
people.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, they hate him.
Yeah.
The people in MUFON, the people in like all of the organized groups that study the phenomenon and they're meticulous about it and try to document everything do not like him
because
he doesn't do any of that, and he claims expertise in areas we don't know he has or doesn't have. And
yeah, he struck me as kind of know-it-all-y. I've listened to a couple things, but I just okay. Let's do some more comments. Thank you so much for pointing. I thought you were going to say the God disorder LOL discussion. We talked about the disorder a lot, years of it, including Scientology. We were the first ones that really kind of went into
I don't
that.
even want to talk about that. They show up outside your Germany,
and it was very interesting. Hey, Helen, see, she's back. We don't know what was happening. That must be about where we were talking about just this identity thing. Folks say that Christians mean well, but my experience at Grandma's bereavement dinner at her church after her funeral, they told me to get right with God or I'd never see her again. Using the
yeah, you're right. I totally agree with Darcy.
In the name of Jesus, right?
I can't tell you how many psychotic funerals I've been to on my husband's side of the family where they're Pentecostal, and the entire thing, 2 hours of how everyone's going to go to hell and be stuck in hell forever if they don't become a Pentecostal. And then they don't even really mention the person that died. And I just feel like this is so, like, I found it to be enraging, actually. It was just a chance to sort of speak to people that weren't part of the faith and try to get them to convert. It was gross.
Yep.
And
best to be good to people in your life while they're alive, and the funerals can just speak for somebody else, in my opinion.
Yeah, the funeral is for other people. It's for the people who are grieving so that they can memorialize the person, not for somebody to stand on a podium and tell all of their family that they're going to go to hell if they don't convert to the religion this person
I think you could grieve somebody close to you and not be at their funeral. I have a real problem with those sorts of rituals.
I know you don't like funerals. I get that. My aunt Doris was like that too.
I just don't get them,
I think the best one I ever went to was my friend, really, really close friend, Chris. And
really good funeral.
Well, it was, because it was like we didn't even have it until like 2 months after, 2 or 3 months after, so that people could come. It was in someone's yard in Sedona. There was a keg, a beer keg.
There you go.
Everyone played their little instruments, and everybody stood up and told a personal story to make everybody laugh and reminisce. And then Gary had put pictures of her since she was like real little all the way to.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
It was wonderful, and it was like one of the best funerals.
That is the way it should be done.
That
I think
I'd
so.
ever gone to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it should.
And then the Buddhist temple actually called in, because she was a strong Buddhist, and they just called in and said some nice things about her on the speakerphone. And it was just very gentle, very much like who she was. It was really cool.
That is really cool.
Regular,
it's more like a
regular
memorial.
ones.
That's
It
memorial.
was really wonderful. So Priyanka says some former MAGA were Mormon at one point. I've seen several with YouTube channels talking about how to get people to leave MAGA and how their religious upbringing led them to Trump in the first place.
Yes, that's right.
I'm very aware of some of that, Priyanka.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yep.
Darcy, that's awful. I was talking about the funeral.
Yeah.
That's how Christians around here in Nebraska would act.
Yeah, that's how they act.
So,
Christians.
and NH Corn, by the way, hi NH. I forgot to say hi to you before. Greer's message I hear is that our government is trying to capture the ET and make them crash.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, they're not going to be able to do that. I mean, it doesn't matter what Greer says. I mean, you know how many times we shot at those? I mean, we can't. They're not. They're going so fast, and we just don't have the technology.
It's like the natives in the Amazon the first time they saw a fighter jet and they're doing blow darts. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean,
Cute dog.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. It looks like my dog.
She took care of her. Darcy says, I took care of her for a year on home hospice while she was passing. And that was fresh from the, oh God, that's horrible.
That's horrible.
When you're the one doing the Christian work, basically.
Yes, right.
That's a hard thing. Helping.
You know what that is, Darcy? That's their guilty conscience coming out.
Yeah. As someone who grew up in Hinduism, Priyanka says, I really had no idea how authoritarian Christianity can be.
It's all about authoritarianism. It's very
one was
authoritarian.
Gandhi that said, I love your Jesus, but I hate Christian, or I dislike Christianity, or something like that.
Yeah,
one of them said that.
You know, right.
Was it Gandhi? I love your Jesus, but I don't like your Christianity. Something to that. That's grossly paraphrased, but it was to that effect.
Not wrong. Yeah, that's right on.
You know what they call the head of the Catholic, actually, Eastern Orthodox Church? They call him the patriarch. That tells
the patriarch,
everything you need to know.
Yeah.
So Crystal Blue says, when I told Mama I was no longer a believer, I thought she would be upset, but she said she hadn't believed in years. She said she went to church because she didn't have any place else to go. There is so much truth to that, Crystal Blue. I think, you know, we don't say anything for a long time. It took me a long time to say something too, you know, because I just didn't want to upset them. Whatever, and then you find out everyone has left the church, but we're too afraid to tell each other, just because of
because the social aspect of it.
She felt obligated to do something on a Sunday morning. Is that?
Well, no, she probably had her friends.
It was it was like one of my grandmothers was probably a deist more than anything, but she was in the end going to churches. It was a social thing. It was
a lot of it's that social.
The 70s and 80s, it was like something to do. You know, especially in rural areas.
I was going to say, if you live in a rural area, that's basically people's social life is often the church. But I was going to say, Mother Teresa. So your mom's not alone. Mother Teresa, you know, she lost her faith. I heard, you know, as she continued to help the poor, she died having no faith at all in God. So just letting you, you're not. A lot of people lose their faith, you know, because
that's what the clergy a lot of priests do.
A lot of priests.
It's not a good brigade, Priyanka, but they use fear to control people, and the fewer their numbers, the worse they become. Oh boy, yeah. Yes, Gandhi said, "I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians." Okay, thank you. I butchered this statement, but it's so true. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ.
The Catholic Church. There's a great documentary. It's multiple episodes, but it's well worth it. It's called The Keepers.
Yeah.
And it's about the murder of a young nun who was going to whistleblow on a pedophile priest who was operating out of an office in a girls' school, a Catholic girls' school.
Yeah, and she was murdered because she was trying to do something about it.
And a couple of the students grew up and got together as middle-aged women and said, you know, we really liked Sister Kathy. I wonder whatever really happened.
I saw that recently. It was good.
Yeah,
by the time they finally found him, they tracked him down. They got the whole story. He had Alzheimer's.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like when I watch my Netflix or whatever, it's on the exercise bike or the row machine in the morning. I got a lot of good calories burned because it was so good. I was like, kept going, It's like, okay. So Crystal Blue says she lived in a rural area. It was social and got her out of the house. Totally agree. That's what a lot of people. Oh, I watched that, says Darcy. It was good, wasn't it, Darcy?
It was good, yeah.
Oh my God,
So
I
good.
saw that.
Saw it.
This is Crystal Blue. I guess a lot of us saw it.
Yeah,
So,
it came out a while ago.
But what do you guys? I mean, do you think that this is still being actively pursued within our government? This whole UFO
100%.
kind of thing,
Totally.
as they wage their other war and do just horrific things to Cuba.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
And then part of I just did notes. But one of the things is that they're trying to link this into like people that say they have near-death experiences, psychic visions, all that. So they're trying to say all of that is demonic too.
Of course,
like it's all from that same, and that's the scary thing, with some of this government, 2025 and all that. They want to get rid of
Remember the
people
recent
like us that don't believe in their religion.
I don't want to say a name. So remember the recent tragic public death of a young man that
right.
left a bereaved woman. Okay. So I heard him probably about a year or 2 years ago on a podcast. I was listening to a progressive podcast and they were playing a clip because they couldn't believe what he said. And he was speaking with Nick Fuentes. And the conversation went something like this. Those people who toy with the devil, tarot card readers, astrologers, psychics, they should all be executed. And
I've heard that.
When we win, they will be.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So NH Korn says, let's hope the aliens come through for us if some hothead in the Middle East war decides they want to use a nuke. I've heard they've stopped them before.
They did stop.
I've heard that.
They didn't stop actual nukes. They stopped nuclear sites. So they went over nuclear sites and turned off and also turned on. They didn't just turn them off. In Russia, they turned them on.
They wanted to show them that they could control.
They have control. Yes. But let's not forget, we did bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki and no alien stopped us.
Exactly.
So, wouldn't rely on that.
I have a darker view of it. I think ultimately they can't interfere with free will, and it's going to come down to that.
I agree with that. Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree with that too. And the scary thing, the news I watch when I do is that a lot of military types, and I think that was echoed in your video today, Denise. There's a lot of concern that Israel may do that. Because they are just.
I've been thinking that for a long time.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Darcy says, think if we made some crop circles, they'll schedule a pickup.
Some of those crop circles are advanced mathematics and physics, and they're really, really elaborate and sophisticated.
Well, Nick Fuentes actually recently, ironically, he's telling people not to vote Republican. And he's saying to get the MAGA people out, that Trump, he's turned completely 180 and he wants the Democrats to win the House and the Senate, which
he hasn't really changed, there's that.
No, he's just pissed off because they're not extreme enough. And there's not, and they're not doing what he wanted them to do.
Did you see Joe Kent quit?
Yes.
Joe Kent, okay. Yeah. So don't be all impressed with him writing a letter to Trump and saying,
no, I'm not.
Okay. He is a white Christian nationalist. He is a very dangerous person. Very dangerous.
Yeah. Well, pretty much everybody in that whole circle are dangerous people. There is none.
He's trying real hard to rehabilitate his whole shtick, and don't fall for it.
I didn't. Don't worry.
I didn't think you would, but I think a lot of people might, because he's young and he's presentable. I wouldn't say he's attractive, but he's not a complete toad, and people fall for that stuff if you say just the right words,
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, what's her name, the Boebert, that are kind of coming for Trump and that regime. And I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is making a bizarre amount of sense now, but that doesn't mean she's still not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
There's still a half
the thing is, though,
bimbo.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm a little more forgiving of it because I know how much I've changed as through life. And maybe she's
people
really
don't change that much.
Deborah, I heard her interviewed the other day by somebody who challenged her. You changed, but look at what you did before. She was all up into defending all the bad stuff that she did.
People can change, but I think people can change, and I agree with that. But it usually comes with a lot of inner work and a lot of, Oh, sweet. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Spirit Fire Girl.
Yeah. A lot of inner work, a lot of psychological evaluation, a lot of spiritual evaluation. It doesn't really usually happen in like a period of a month or two. That's something else. I think personally what's going on there is she's not getting what she bought into. She wanted certain things and she didn't get what she wanted either.
Well, see, this is what it's really about.
My husband said he's not anti-GMO last week.
Yeah, I heard that too.
In the war, and it escalates. Well, that's it.
I want to start a club, draft Baron Trump.
Yeah, I think you should.
I'm a Scorpio.
I ain't going to forgive and forget, says Darcy. I may eventually forgive, but I won't forget.
I get that, Darcy. Yeah.
I'm so aware of my own shortcomings that I tend to be a little more okay.
Well, I can forgive people and I can let things go. However, I don't forget when people do things either. But also, you see a pattern of behavior over a long period of time, and somebody flips on a dime, then you have to sort of take it with a little bit of a grain of salt and see, are they really changing, or is this just because they're taking a different tact? And I think in the case of a lot of these people, it's the latter.
Yeah.
Well, and they're looking for their next political. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Helen.
I was answering this thing here. He is from Santa Monica. His family is Jewish. They've disowned him, and he's known around town as Santa Monica Goebbels.
He's a Jewish Nazi. Yeah. Yes.
For those who might be listening and not watching, the question was about Stephen Miller.
And so is Steve. Netanyahu's a Jewish Nazi. He's just he's taking it out on the Palestinians.
Speaking of him, have you guys seen those
that he's dead videos? Yeah,
those videos where he's got like 6 fingers, and then the one where the coffee doesn't. The coffee, so then they put out another one, and the coffee doesn't. So this was the thing. Remember when we were talking about AI, like 7 months ago? The danger of this is that it's going to create these situations where we don't know what is real and what is not.
That's right.
And so, and now the question comes, well, who is behind making these AIs? Because some of them are obviously AIs. Is it him? Or it has something really happened to him? Nobody knows now. I mean, it's just absolute confusion. Oh, what's wrong with him?
Twice in the past 48 hours, if people ask me to read. He's in a bunker.
Yeah, he is alive, I think, because he did do some kind of he did some kind of he did do something to, like, really recently, I think, like yesterday or today, where he did some kind of a press thing. But I looked at his chart and I was like, something did happen. He probably did get bombed.
He got scared.
He got scared. Yeah. If nothing else, he got scared, and he did kind of go into some kind of hiding. I cringe when I think about my blues before my deconversion.
Crystal, that's not a deconversion, it's heresy.
That's why I tend to be soft.
No, I agree.
People.
No, I agree.
Same for me.
No, I think it's one thing to change your beliefs and to evolve over time and realize that you made some mistakes. Everybody, when they're young, is programmed by their family of origin. We all do stupid shit when we're young because we don't know any better, But when you're Marjorie Taylor Greene and you're in your 50s, you're not going to flip on a dime and change all of your belief systems in a matter of a few months.
Process, and there has to be an element of humility there, which is a little difficult to see. Yeah. Listen, I cringe when I think about how I was in my 20s. We got married in a Catholic church. We had to pull strings because it wasn't my parish. I just liked the building because it was historical. Because I didn't really believe any of it. I was placating my family, who didn't come because my husband was a pagan. I mean, it was a shit show.
And he's a Christian too, isn't he? Isn't he like?
No, he was raised he's nothing.
He's a Quaker. Okay, but he was raised Quaker. That's still Christian.
But his mother raised him Quaker because the Quaker church near their house was where Richard Nixon went, and she admired Richard Nixon.
Oh,
Lordy. The only reason she went was to rub elbows with Richard Nixon. He is completely irreligious. He doesn't believe or not believe. He's just not.
He doesn't care about it.
Yeah.
He's a good. They're not. They have nothing to do with one another. In fact, I think.
Yeah, but people assume, how can you have children if you don't take them to church? Because how will they know the difference between right and wrong?
I think the people that get into religion like that are people that maybe don't have that compass, and that is scary. I think people naturally have that compass internally.
Children
and if you don't have it, then there's something wrong with you, and maybe you do need rules to follow. But most people have that internal sense of right and wrong.
They've totally revamped the chaplain program in the military, and they've gotten rid of as many as they can that are not born-again fundamentalists, nut jobs.
Yes. For those listening, what she's talking about is this comment. When I was in the Army, I never had any religious dogma from the chain of command. I was surprised to hear that some were telling soldiers it was God's plan.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Helen. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
No. We talked about it earlier. I mean, the people at the top are telling their underlings that this is God's plan. We're fulfilling biblical prophecy. Every Sunday they do the whole evangelical Pentecost. I know they're not the same thing, but the right-wing white Christian nationalist religious stuff. They do that every week. They are proselytizing heavily, and they're making no bones about it. And in case everybody's forgotten, the Speaker of the House lives with a preacher who wants to tell legislators how to vote.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I told you, Mike Johnson shares like a frat house with.
That's right. That's right.
Andy
That's relatively new. Yeah.
He's gross.
He is.
He is just fucking icky. And that Stephen Miller looks like Voldemort before he became fully Voldemort.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, they're really scary people.
And speaking of Stephen Miller, I think this is who Priyanka's talking about. His wife is kooky too.
Oh, I haven't seen her yet.
You haven't lived till you listen to our podcast.
Really?
Oh, no.
What's her name?
Katie Miller.
Katie Miller.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and they all make the rounds on this podcast. Yep.
Her
Crystal Blue was in the Air Force.
Talked about her. It was great. She was a mean girl. She only ever cared about herself. She was arrogant. Just all the things on the checklist of like psychopathy.
Well, of course she is. I mean, who would marry him other than somebody like that? Yeah.
So Crystal Blue served in the Air Force and did not experience, and that's surprising because the Air Force seems to be the gateway where a lot of this has started. So that's cool to know that you didn't go.
I wonder how long ago she was in the.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think it started, really in the 2000s under George Bush, from what I've read. It started after like 9/11 stuff.
Yes.
That's when it really started. Yeah.
The day I heard them use the word Patriot Act and Homeland, I thought, oh God, we're in trouble.
Yeah. The Homeland was the part that got me.
Those terms.
Yeah.
So Darcy says, I never weaponized religion. My nature has remained steady even while I was brainwashed. That's why I don't forget.
Well, they didn't do a good job of brainwashing you, Darcy.
They didn't. She maybe because she's on the spectrum, she didn't fall for it.
You resisted.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
good.
Yeah.
So Crystal Blue says, one of the things that seems so crazy to me was that the evangelicals and Republicans didn't act at all the way Jesus said to be, the way my childhood church, and you nailed that, Crystal Blue. I think that's why a lot of people are leaving religion.
Yeah.
It disgusts me. It is appalling how someone can stand there with their crucifix in their hand and their rosary in the other hand, spouting verse and gospel, and then turn around and spit at a dog or a little colored human or someone who is just different.
Yeah.
You just can't be different. I love different. I love you because you're weird.
Right. I do too. I love weirdos.
Yeah.
If you're Christian, you follow Christ, right? And if you believe that the New Testament is exactly the words of some guy named Christ, what did he say? He said, feed the hungry, visit the sick,
the poor,
counsel the prisoner, take care of the widow, house the homeless. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Which of those things is Department of Homeland Security doing, do you think? Welcome to Savior. That's my favorite.
Yeah, right. That's right.
That Pastor Ed guy with the long beard from Canada. I don't know if you've seen. I think you were trying to get him on your show, weren't you, Helen? Was it Ed?
Yes, he's from Eastern Canada. He lives on a reserve. Works with First Nations. Yeah.
What is he?
He's really good, and he, I think, kind of, he has a thing on YouTube, and he talks about every day delivers something. I enjoy listening to him because he talks about what Christianity supposedly actually is supposed to be, and the things that some of the people who grew up in decent churches were taught. He's good. So
there's
Father
David. Have you seen him? I had him on my channel one day. He does shorts. He does a short every day. It's a little, a little homily every day.
Who? I didn't catch your name.
His name is Father David. I can't remember his last name. I think it starts with a G. It's a hard name for me because it's not Smith. But he's a person, and he said everything you would want to hear from a clergy person. It was none of the rhetoric.
No, there are some really good clergy people, and there's some really good Christians. Yeah.
So Laura Marr says, my favorite saying, forgive yourself for not knowing earlier what only time could teach.
Yeah,
a lot of truth to that one, Laura Marr.
That's right.
Rubbing elbows with Nixon. That sounds terrible.
That mental voice.
Darcy, you are on a freaking roll tonight. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So this was a marriage made in heaven when my mother-in-law worshipped Richard Nixon, and my mother was absolutely not hyperbole. Really believed that Richard Nixon flew into Dallas and pulled the trigger himself on JFK.
Oh my gosh.
They could not be more different. Isn't that hilarious?
That's insane.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Both of them. Yeah, I know.
So Priyanka, such a good
that morning, and he had no official business. I'm just saying.
Oh wow.
Really? Oh. Priyanka raises a really good point here. Speaking of people changing, JD is a chameleon. Despite being married to a brown woman, he sure does sound like a white supremacist. It's baffling. Does his wife not care, or is she brainwashed? Well, the thing is, too, look at how many name changes has he had. He's changed his name like what, 4 times?
Yes.
And then he had that movie about the Appalachians that was, more like in support of helping the impoverished and whatever.
Yes.
And now he's like done a complete.
Did you read the book?
180. Yeah.
No.
His grandmother set his grandfather on fire on the couch. She just
what?
was mad at him, waited till he was asleep on the couch and set him on fire. He didn't die. He woke up and put it out. But, that was the intent.
Oh God! Republican threw pull out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to name my video I made, and then someone talked me out of it.
Republican throw.
I blame James Dobson for a lot of this. He brainwashed and radicalized average Christians in their cars over AM radio. He urged taking over the government. Exactly. Focus on the family.
Oh, focus on the family.
See, and the precursor to all of this, I honestly think, is that cult I grew up in, because they really learned to, I mean, in fact, they started calling themselves the Radio Church of God in the 1930s. And they really kind of propelled this like late night talk, Christian kind of, and they put it in a way that was interesting and that would get people sort of into it.
On Christianity.
Yeah. And at one time, they had more money than Franklin Graham's group.
God.
They did. You lived in California, Denise. Have you ever seen Ambassador College in Pasadena?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
It was the backs of poor people like us. That was built by that cult.
Wow.
Even the doorknobs, I remember sitting there in church and them talking about plating the doorknobs with gold and how much it would cost. And so here these people who could barely afford clothes outside of Goodwill were giving % of their income to this damn church, and they're building like Ambassador College, and Herbert is flying all over the world meeting.
Right. That's the story of all those Christian
that's right.
charlatans.
But they had more money than all the other group, and the other ones. I really think they, like James Dobson and the rest, kind of saw this as, wow, that's a good template. We're gonna.
There was a whole movement in the 70s towards this Christian evangelical thing. I mean, it's like it happened. I think it was the aspects of Neptune being in Sagittarius. Just the rise of that was everywhere. You know, Latin America used to be Catholic. It's not really Catholic anymore. People don't realize that. It's all been evangelized by the evangelical. It happened all in the 80s, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, not to change the subject, but you reminded me of the gold, you know, turning something into gold. So this morning I happened to mention to my husband, did you hear that Trump wants to actually take the columns off the front of the White House?
Why?
That's true. That's not a joke.
Why?
Well, my husband knows why. He said, he wants to replace them with gold.
Yeah, he wants to replace them with a different style and gold.
Yeah.
Wow.
He really does want to put them with gold?
Yes.
Oh, he was kidding. I was kidding. Seriously? Oh, my God.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my God. So I was from 1979 to 1987. I don't know what that is about.
That was about when she was in the Air Force. So that's
okay.
Influence. Yeah, probably because I was in the 90s. Yeah,
so
that's right.
90s,
so because it started that book that came out. I think Redfern book. It said it was in 2010, but if you look at the copyright, it was 2006. So that it was kind of hot on the heels of 9/11, and that's really under George Bush when it started.
Yep.
As a hillbilly, this is about that psychopath. You don't claim
it.
J.D. Vance's book.
Yeah,
Darcy, you are just batting 1,000 tonight. My God, you're so funny. I think it continues.
Weird is good. Yes,
we have determined that. Welcome.
Some
to
of us have no choice.
Welcome to the fold. It's weird over here.
Yeah.
Well, we went for an hour and a half. How you guys doing?
Yeah,
we did. Wrap it up for tonight?
Yeah. No, we could go on all night long. I mean,
I could go on all night, but I do need to be somewhere.
Yeah,
it's crazy out there. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
But it's all
Deborah, this was.
I have to get up early tomorrow.
I do. I have to get up at 6 a.m. every freaking day. It sucks. I'm not a morning person, as you could probably tell.
No, me neither.
When you're my age, Denise, you will be.
No, I will never be a morning. I've been doing this for I can't tell you how many years now. 13 years, and I have never gotten used to it. It's not
a morning person.
It's not my thing.
Though, even when I was younger, I kind of was, because it was like the only time to work out. So I would get up.
Oh, wow.
When I was young.
Yeah, right. I know. I love working out.
Got their priorities straight.
It's vanity.
I work out.
It's vanity.
You're a Virgo.
Yeah. Also, none of the men were at the gym, because at the gym they don't clean up, and you've got sweat on everything. You have to wipe it off.
Yeah,
so it's like it was nice and clean. It was only women in there, and it was like we all clean up after ourselves and whatever. I think that was a big motivator. That makes sense.
Some people are just better in the mornings and they're better at night. I don't know.
You know, Keith, when I had the God discussion, our shows literally went for 4 hours, and we had callers the whole time.
I bet you did.
We did, because during that period of time, I don't know what was going on astrologically. Well, it was around that same time, early when did I start that? Early 2000s,
90s,
probably like.
Okay, yeah, Neptune.
Late, probably like 2000, because we finally had internet then.
Uranus was in Aquarius. That makes sense.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people that were feeling so disillusioned with religion and just trying to find a space to talk.
Yes,
because it was like what somebody brought up. With the family, it's hard to tell them, and then you tell them, and you find out, whoa, they didn't believe either. But it's safe to just call some show and talk about it, and then it's like, oh, I'm okay. I'm not going to hell or whatever. Good night, Lizzie. And one more comment. My grandpa got sacked into that Ambassador College call. Oh, so she knows about that. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a Netflix series called American Horror Stories.
Yeah.
And the church, as we called it, is in it, in one of the episodes.
Wow.
That's how awful it was to make
I'll have to watch that. That's hilarious.
But anyway, you guys, so good to see you. I think next week, unless something totally bizarre happens, we'll do the Ethiopian Bible. I think it's worth discussing.
Yeah.
Our next show, just kind of some highlights of that.
Hot gossip about the Ethiopians and the Bible, I'll tell you.
Oh, yes. Okay. So we need to do that. We like the gossip there. I want to thank everybody who has visited us tonight and who will watch after the live. Both, thank you so much. Good comments. Brevity is the soul of wit. You just knocked it out of the park. And so did Darcy with some of these. Helen and Denise, thank you so much.
Thank you,
appreciate
Deborah.
you guys big time. So
it was great, Deborah.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you
ladies.
Riot.
Love you all. All right. Good night.
Bye, everybody. Good night.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.